Tell me, right?
Yeah, I think we are live. So, hello, everybody. I am so excited to have you all join today. I'd love to see where everyone is tuning in from. So, in the comment section, please drop, where you're tuning in from, your name, and what you're also most excited to hear about today. So, let's see. All right. All right. So we have some more people tuning in right now. So this is great. So this is the first time that we are streaming on LinkedIn Live. So we're just getting our bearings right now and just setting everything up. So this is super exciting. All right. Someone is here from rainy Amsterdam, Amsterdam as well. Glad to see everyone tuning in. So we're just waiting for a couple more people to tune in and then we'll get started. Frankfurt, hello, Adam. Wow, Amsterdam, it seems to be a popular location. Sweden, welcome from Sweden. Happy to see you here. Adam, yes, Amsterdam. Czech Republic, welcome, Martin. Ooh, Scotland, hi, Laura, welcome. So I see we have a lot of representation from Amsterdam. This is super exciting. I'm just going to wait a little bit longer because I see that more and more people are tuning in, which is awesome. All right. So before we get started, Martijn, I'm just going to ask you a fun question. So, what is your go to karaoke song?
My go-to karaoke song. Well, let me think a bit. I think that must be Wonderwall from Oasis, since that's the song of me and my wife, and I'm not sure why, but every time we go for karaoke, my wife is there, so I think that must be the song.
Love it. That is a classic. That is
Yeah.
a classic. All right. So we're already 2 minutes in, so I'm just going to get started. So, welcome everyone to the Wonderkin webinar series, a series on talent attraction that gives you insights on how to adapt to the candidate driven market with actionable insights from the leaders in the industry. So, I am your host, Daniela Janis. Some of you may have seen me before on the webinars. I'm the marketing manager here at Wonderkind. And for those of you that are not familiar with Wonderkind, Wonderkind is a talent attraction technology. Our technology supports our partners in creating authentic brand awareness content for our for recruitment marketing campaigns, and we target specific audiences such as passive and active candidates based on their interests. So we do this to escape bias. And with our tool, you can automate, manage, track, optimize your ads in just minutes. So, introducing today's session. So, we have Martijn from Monster, and Monster is a global job board owned by Randstad. And today we're going to be talking about how Monster adapts to the candidate driven market. And Martijn is the director of Pay for Performance Europe at Monster, and he's set up a great model in which you pay for your performance. So I will give it to you to give yourself an introduction to our audience.
Well, hello, nice to meet you all. I cannot see every one of you, but I can imagine you are there. So this is really different online than it obviously is offline. But anyways, my name is Martijn. I live in Loon aan de Vecht, and as mentioned, I work for Monster, where I'm responsible for the pay for performance model in Europe and the rollout of this model, and that's it.
Thank you for that introduction. So, before we get started with the juicy questions, we have a round of speed questions, which is even juicier. So, I am going to get ready to get started with those. And Martijn, you have to answer with a yes or no.
I'll do
You
my
ready?
best. Yeah.
All right, let's go. All right. Job boards in their current form are a dead end.
No.
The way employers attract talent needs to change fundamentally.
Can I say yes and no?
Yeah, we'll dive into it after. But
Yeah.
so it's a yes and then a no then.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. And then the last question is pay for performance will be the new standard in 2022.
Yeah, I think if we're being strict about it, I think no.
All right. So let's unpack those questions a bit. So, job boards in their current form are not a dead end. I'd love for you to explain this a bit more.
Yeah, great question, by the way. I think first of all, to start with that question, I think you need to differentiate. So I think there are a lot of wordings and terms on it. So you have aggregators, you have multi-posters, you have programmatics, and you have job boards. And obviously, we're talking about a job board as a platform, I would say. And I truly believe that the ones that have a platform where all the events take place, and if you can use that data to optimize for your platform, for your candidates, and for your clients, you are ultimately the winner. So I believe that if that is what a future job board looks like, which it is in my perception, I think they are more likely into the sweet spot than they're into a dead end, I would say.
Yeah. And I think that makes sense, of course, if you're utilizing the data. And of course, what Monster is doing is that they're finding the right fit for the candidate and the client. So this is a
Exactly.
standard that is not a dead end form, right? So it's all about adapting to the candidate driven market. There we go.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So the next question, you had two answers for this, which I will allow. And so it's the way employers attract talent needs to change fundamentally. Yes and no. So we'll start with why it's a yes.
Well, I think why it needs to change fundamentally is because I believe that there's much more focus now on the insights of your entire funnel. I think this is something different from a client's perspective, where it's much more easier to get all the data, and it's also much more valuable to really deep dive into what's happening inside of your entire funnel, I would say. And but on the other hand, I think that what attraction of talent means is that you're talking to your right audience at the right time. So I think back in the old days, we would target our audience in newspapers and magazines, which is mostly offline, where it's now more on social and on job boards and these kind of I would say tools, which is mostly online. But with this, I would say, shift from offline to online, what also changed is that, in a sense, marketing took over the role of recruitment. And what I see is very important is that where you like literally see a marketing manager responsible for your recruitment, I also see a shift in expertise. So I could also say that we should move back in time and really get back the expertise of the recruiter to really talk and understand your candidate, so to say, and understand your job and make a match there. Because make no mistake about it, there's really a difference between a pair of shoes to do marketing for and a job, which is a very, I would say, sophisticated, thing to do, a job match.
Yeah, of course. And I think as you mentioned, it always starts with really understanding your candidate and how to tailor your advertisements, your content towards that candidate, which is a shift, which is a combination between the recruiter and the marketer. Um,
Yeah, but I would even take it a step further. So I fully agree with what you're saying, but then again, like the job description is in the example of the shoes, but if you really deep dive into what is a job description and what does it tell you and what are you really looking for, and are all stakeholders involved with the job description, and are you looking for a copy of your organization culture, or are you trying to find someone bringing a change? So it's really a non-tangible thing. So it's yeah, there we really have the expertise of the recruiter, I would say.
yeah. So would you also say that a recruiter also needs to understand the marketing fundamentals to get that content out to the right people?
Yeah, I think it's a great combination where marketing and recruitment can find each other, and this might be the going back to the question. So if you want to change fundamentally the way you attract talent, then I think especially the largest clients in Europe, they changed a lot on the marketing side, and I think now is the time to involve recruitment there and to bring both expertise to the table.
Yeah, it's kind of like, let's take it a step further, right? Find
Yeah.
out what works, what doesn't. And of course, the recruiter plays a huge role because they're the ones who actually know what their candidates are like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you on that. And then you also said the way that it needs to change is a no. So I'm curious about about both answers.
Yeah, I like the no. So why it doesn't need to change, because in essence, this is what we are doing for quite a while. The only thing what changes is the environment. So I would say that we're still doing the same. We're still attracting talent, and it goes. Then we have I would say, a scarce market and a non-scarce market. So we have been through this cycle before. So I guess be more proactive, shorter time to hire, looking into skills of people. We have already been there, and we just need to look back a bit into our historic expertise, I would say. So in a sense, we don't need to fundamentally change. We need to just go back and listen to ourselves for a while ago.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And both of those, and the essence of both of your answers kind of goes back to looking at the ways of which it's working and then adopting that and taking it to the next level for the future.
100%.
So, yeah, cool. So, the next question that we're going to unpack is so the pay for performance model. And we asked, will this be the new standard in 2022?
Yeah. So you can look at it from different angles, I would say. So my answer was yes and no again. So I think, looking into Europe, I think the one market is different than the other market. So you could say there's a more conservative market and a more, I would say, innovative market. So that's one way to look at it. So I don't think that every market into Europe will transition or should go to pay for performance right away. Um, but also I believe that there's a different solution for a different need. So if you're looking into the traditional job posting, and for example the pay for per job view model, so where you pay for a view on a platform, this is really a solution to get visibility to your jobs. Where the PPC, so the click out model, really helps the company to get more traffic to their websites. And if you are on a pay per applicant model, this really helps the customer to get more applicants. So in a sense, what you pay is what you get. But it doesn't say you should full go on a pay for performance model. I would say you need to look at your needs from your company and find a solution which fits that needs.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, especially with a pay for performance model, because it's also how urgent do you need to fill this position? Is it a hard to fill position? And I think, yeah, it really depends on the company and how to tailor and target to their needs. So now this leads us perfectly into the next question. So let's talk about Monster's pay for performance model. So let's unpack that a bit. So how does it work at Monster?
Yeah, so how does it work in Monster? I think in general, pay for performance stands for a model where a customer pays for an agreed deliverable, and this deliverable, in the most sense, means job views, means clickouts, means applicants. So job views means someone opens the job and looks at the job. A clickout means, hey, I would like to apply, so I click to the website of the employer. And an applicant would mean a finished application, either on the website of Monster or on the website of the client. And in this setup, we mostly do an optimization one step further down the funnel. So if you get paid per job view, we talk about clickouts. If we pay per clickout, then we're talking about applicants. And if we get paid by applicants, we're talking about either a qualified applicant or even interview or further down the funnel.
Right.
If that makes sense.
And pardon me?
If that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I see we have no questions relating to the pay for performance model. I do see we have a question, and we will answer those questions at the end. And also, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been at Monster for a year now, and you introduced this model a year ago, correct?
That is correct. So I would say I started my career more than 10 years ago with Randstad. So that's the mother company of Monster. But indeed, I started with Monster a year ago, where we obviously already in the back end changed a lot on the performance model. So it means that I would say to set the foundation for the performance model, it started already years ago.
Right, right. But you just took it to the next level. So I would also like to discuss. I would also like to discuss how this has helped Monster. So, of course, we talked about how job boards in their current form are not a dead end, right? And I think this
Yeah,
is because job boards such as Monster is taking it to the next level of doing a pay for performance model. So for any other job boards out there that are looking for inspiration, maybe you can discuss how this has really helped Monster as a job board adapt to the current trends.
yeah.
So for example, um, some of the pains that we have in the market with job boards is that it's really hard to attract passive candidates on job boards. So maybe we can talk about how this model has helped Monster grow in the last couple of years.
Yeah, sure. So I think how it helped Monster grow. First, it's a no-brainer for clients to start working with us. And maybe it's a bit strange to say, but like a client needs either more applicants, a more efficient cost per applicant or click out, or they do not want to spend their budget to one player, for example. And basically, we deliver on those needs by default because this is what the pay for performance model stands for. And secondly, I would say by optimizing campaign by campaign, it really allows us to truly understand our visitors and we can offer them the best match to their search. So that means that if we really deep dive into why a visitor converts on our platform, we also know that why this job is relevant to them. And for the next visitor, we can give him a better match. And every day, every second, we are improving this way of working. So we are really, with this setup, understanding our visitors and our clients, so to say. And on the side, obviously, our traffic acquisition gets very, very efficient. And this benefits the entire ecosystem for Monster. Um, you asked one question about the passive and the active job seekers. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would love to understand how you engage with 100% of the market because most job boards, let's say, kind of wait for traffic to come to them, and others, have other social media channels. And I know that you work with partners to get more traffic towards your website. So I was wondering how you engage with passive and active job seekers.
Yeah, yeah. So you're absolutely right because the vast majority of the market is obviously a passive job seeker, where a job board is known for the active job seekers because when a person enters your website or your platform, then he is almost by default an active job seeker because therefore he's on the website. So basically, what we do to attract the passive job seeker is to be relevant for them. And how can you be relevant? You can be relevant for a job seeker when you show them interesting content, when you show them your added value by helping them do an orientation on your platform, by guiding them into the how you can apply properly. So we're really trying to engage with the passive job seeker to be relevant to them and to attract them to our platform. And on the side, you can obviously choose what kind of channels are more into, I would say, active job seekers versus passive job seekers. And I think especially the part where people are doing an orientation on their job, we become a very interesting channel. And obviously, social is a great platform to interact and to attract more passive job seekers.
Yeah. And so Monster is a really well-known name. So what kind of tips would you give to smaller job boards out there that are not known to get more exposure within their market?
Yeah, it's a hard question because like you can build up solid visitors to your platform, but in the end, I believe that you need to become a relevant brand to really become a player into the market because you need your branded traffic. You need to be on top of the mind when a candidate is looking for a job. And then I think the rest of the talent acquisition can be a booster for you. Um, but if you want an answer, I would say stick to a targeted plan. So don't focus on everything if you want to start, but focus on a specific group of job seekers.
Hmm. And would you say that it's really important for job boards to put the candidate first when it comes to this, so that they build a trusting relationship with the candidate? I know that your North Star metric is the right fit for both the candidate and the client. So would you say that the candidate comes first for in this kind of situation?
It's a great question. I think it's obvious to say in this market that the candidate comes first. But I do believe if you look into the metric of finding the right fit, and then maybe more specific, focus on the long-term hire, that means that you need to be sure that what you are offering to the candidate provides them a job where they can stick for a longer period of time. So it means that we need to do everything we do to create value in giving the candidate insights and the ability to apply for a job which fits its needs.
Yeah, and I think that makes, yeah, absolutely a lot of sense. So we kind of went a little bit off of our questions, but we expected to kind of go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, no problem.
So, and we definitely answered the question on how the pay for performance model is sustainable for both clients and Monster, as because they're paying for performance. But I would also like to tap into the benefits and the drawbacks, if there are any.
Yeah, sure. So I think in terms of the benefits, it's truly flexible. It is very transparent, which also gives very interesting new relationship with clients, so to say, because we are very transparent in everything, and this is the foundation of the partnership, which is needed for pay for performance. You get a lot of insights on what's happening on your campaign, what's happening to peer campaigns. It's giving you a lot of information. It's low risk, and it's obviously very cost efficient. So I would say these are the benefits to the model. And you also asked for the drawbacks, so the disadvantages from the for the pay for performance model. And I think there are, to be honest. So
I love and appreciate your transparency. So you definitely tapped in on the first point of being transparent.
so in a sense, what you pay is what you get. So I mentioned that before, but you really need to find the right solution for the right need. So, and what I mean with that is if you pay for applicants, you get optimized applicant campaigns. If you buy traffic to your website, you get the most traffic on your website. And if you pay visibility, you get visibility. And let's say in generic on platforms I know of, this is really a major challenge for them to step away, because I think it doesn't matter what the metric is where you get paid for. It's really important to focus on that right fit. So if everything you do focuses on the right fit, then it doesn't matter on which metric you pay for, because in the end you'll grow as a job board, because if you deliver that value to that metric, in the end that will grow your business. And yeah, cannot stress that out more importantly. And I think one other element, and maybe it would have been good if I did an introduction what I did before. But one thing I did before I went to Monster is I worked for a direct company. So we also worked with Wonderkind, by the way. And we hired around 10,000 people a year, and I was responsible for recruitment there. And basically, if you're optimizing on a metric, which I just mentioned, like what you pay is what you get, it can also be very misleading. And one example I want to give you is if you, for example, take the cost per hire. And the cost per hire is a really hot and, in my perspective, of my opinion, very hyped topic at the moment. Because when I worked at that company and I was responsible for the recruitment, we measured everything. So first to clicks, then to applicants, then to qualified applicants, to interviews, to hires, to long-term hires. And this was a journey which we did in a very short time. And when we looked into the long-term hire, we noticed that some job boards, some channels were performing really well. and some of them were not performing at all. So we boosted the ones who were performing, and we stopped the ones who did not perform that good. But when we deep dived into the reason why a person did not get hired, most of the reasons was due to the fact that they were not into the first three applicants. So imagine you have a recruitment team, a central recruitment team, calling the applicants right away, so within the hour if possible. So it means that the first applicant, if they wanted to go to work, they were planned on an interview. Second would be put on interview, and the third one would be put on hold, sort of to say. So it means that applicant number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 would not be processed. So they would get an email with, thank you very much, we have this job, so please apply for other jobs. But would you say that this reason gives the source a mark as non-valuable source? I for sure wouldn't do so. And the second reason why a candidate was not hired was because specific recruiters didn't follow up as soon as possible. So it could be that we after a few weeks, we had a bunch of people wanting to work with us and were not followed up at all. So all of these candidates, I would say, which is a horrific situation, especially in the market we are in right now, but all those candidates would be marked as non-valuable or not qualified applicants. So if you purely look into your data and you really steer towards a metric like a cost per hire, you're really missing out a lot of opportunity in this market. So what I'm trying to say is you can work on metrics like an applicant, like a click out or a job view. I would definitely not go for a cost per hire model. I explicitly also do not advise job boards to go that way. But maybe we can talk about that later, but that's a different discussion. But I would really, you really need to look into your funnel and understand what the data is telling you before you make decisions. And I think that's a really disadvantage from the pay for performance model, unless you really take into mind what is happening with your data, understand what the data is saying, is the data correct? Of maybe a topic a bit off subject, but when I was at the company, I have 3 different IT companies assuring me that the data of the applicants and source and hire was correct. In none of the 3 cases, it was far from correct. So you really need to see that the data is correct, that you understand your data, and that you steer on the data, but understand what's behind the numbers.
Yeah, and I think you make a really valid point there, because it sounds like if you do cost per the cost per hire, or the cost per applicant model, then you're missing out on so many great candidates there. And if you're just disqualifying them, like that's not sufficient for your client or for the job board, because then you're actually not getting in the candidate that you might want, right? And it's all about finding the right fit for the client and the candidate. So yeah, you heard it from Martijn yourself explicitly. And we have a great comment from Michael. He said, Martijn, you are so on point with the first 3 applicants getting the best look. So kudos to you.
Thanks.
Thanks for sharing. So yeah, thank you for that. And I would also, so we talked about this story, and I would also like to hear some of your success stories at Monster with the pay for performance. I think use cases are a great way to showcase how this actually works, and what happens when you do find the right fit for both the candidate and the client.
Yeah, so let me think about that, because I did not explicitly ask specific cases to put on the discussion here, but I'm sure I can use the example of Randstad. And basically, these are the examples I think we're most proud of as a team, and I'm mentioning it, but obviously there's a great team from Monster making that happen. But I know that, for example, in Randstad, in different countries, we grew the number of applicants by 233, and one even 700% of the number of applicants. And basically why we increased so heavily with them is by listening to their needs, listening to and adapting to their KPIs, which is not always just the price per applicant, but it could also be volume. It can also be attracting different applicants. It could be setting up a larger campaign. And by really listening to what they need, we adapted to that, and we showed within a month that we could tremendously grow with them.
Could you talk about how Monster adapts to these needs and how it works? I'm really curious to dive into this a bit more because I think we mentioned at the beginning it's really understanding your candidate. So, how does Monster stay agile when the candidate market is changing?
Yeah, so that's a tough question, but I would say, so what we do basically is we first try to set up a great setup, which means it could be looking into the candidate funnel. So very easily, if someone views a job, signs up, you want to have the candidate funnel as short as possible. So preferably the application happens on Monster, and we push automatically their candidate into their ATS. That will be the best setup for the most results. So that's a great win. What we also do is we want to push all the jobs live. So in the examples I just gave you, so what the I would say the formerly known job posting method, you pay per job posting. That also means that if you pay per job posting, you post the job which is most hard to find, which makes it very hard to find people, which makes it more expensive, which makes your, and I mentioned before, the whole Monster ecosystem expensive. So you're in sort of a negative flow, so to say.
Mm.
And if you are able to transition that flow into a more easy flow, where you have all the jobs, are able to boost it on multiple angles, you shorten your candidate funnel, then that's a great start. Then the second thing we do is basically we look into the numbers, so the data. So we look into conversion rates, where we look from even an impression share, so meaning when someone searches for a job and is listed in the job view list, that's an impression, until the apply finish. So what we do is if we see that percentages, we also see where in the funnel is the most pain for this campaign. And we're trying to fix that. We can compare that to peers, we can compare that to what should be normal in the country, and there we optimize the campaign. And the last thing we can do, or maybe the first thing, depending on what you say, is which kind of source of traffic is working really well for the candidate, meaning that you can spend the budget at the most valuable source of traffic, which means that if you do this campaign by campaign, the entire ecosystem works much better. Basically, that's it. But I can tell me if it's too abstract.
No, I have a follow-up question
Yeah.
because I'm curious about how it works at Monster. And I was wondering, so when a client of yours boosts a campaign, is it targeted? So let's say you have different clients targeting the same candidate. How is it matched to the right candidate? Is it based on the candidate's needs, or is it based on on what the client pays for? And
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, you have a follow-up? Sorry. No,
no,
so let me answer that.
that was a question.
Let me answer that. So the relevancy of the job, if you would do that on price, so if it would only be price, then I think you would have a very funny website because then you would have a great ranking on your website. So it's always a combination of relevancy, of quality of the job, of pricing, of behavior on the website, on how many impressions the job got, so how relevant is the job. So we have an algorithm determining which job is most relevant, which is pretty sophisticated, I can tell.
Yeah, I mean, Monster has so many data points on how the trends, the hiring trends, what candidates are looking for. But yeah, just curious to see how the algorithm works because Monster is a job board that has that has this system in place. Um, so I was also so a little bit off of the questions
No
that
mind.
we had prepared, but I was also wondering. I was doing some research on the pay for performance model, and it says that it's actually way more economical to do the pay for performance model than just to post your ads for free, right? Or to post your vacancies for free. And maybe for those that are not actually paying for their vacancies on job boards, why would you opt for the pay for performance model?
So do you mean like if you can post them for free, why would you start the pay for performance model?
No, I'm saying if you could, yeah, well, I'm saying if you could get more bang for your buck on the pay for performance model, how would you entice people not to do it for free?
If they could do it for free, then I would for sure keep that model going. We do not offer that solution at scale. Yeah, I think if you want to attract the right candidate, you want to be on at least the first page on a job board. So I think the most yeah, what's the word for it? The most valuable applicant will be the one on page one and not on page 20. So if you want your job and want to attract your audience, I would make sure that you are in there. And I think often when you put your jobs into an organic content, the only thing what will happen is that your job will be used to attract traffic on all kinds of free websites, which doesn't really help your brand, doesn't really help the professionality of your company, so to say. But yeah, so if you take the recruitment seriously, I would still say you need to put some dollars in there to get the most effective and good candidates, rather than wait for free candidates who are not that interested and maybe only cost you time to process in a sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, there's that saying, if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So yeah.
Yeah, and
So
someone's making money on it if you have your job organically out there. So do you want to put your job there without really knowing what's happening with it, but knowing that you pay probably the same as you would do if you pay in dollars, or do you want to be in control and know what's happening with your jobs and your content?
yeah, and I think especially in today's candidate-driven market, you really need to optimize and make sure that you're paying to get the right candidates, right?
Yeah.
'Cause if not, then what's the point of actually putting a vacancy up if you're not going to get the ROI for it? So it's important. And so for other job boards out there that haven't initiated this, how would you say that other companies can adopt this model? What's an easy, few steps that they could take?
Yeah, then you're making it an easy steps to take.
If there are.
Yeah, I think that the to be honest, like the great advantage Monster has, and the only way it works it properly, is if you have a ton of data and expertise. And luckily we are in the game of job boarding for quite a while. I think we invented the market, and there are so many great smart people out there within the Monster organization making this possible. Because if you truly understand how it is to run a platform, then it's really different than some people might think. And you really need to have a lot of data to know where to attract the right talent, how to do the proper communication, persona communication, how to run the campaigns, what is a good price, what is an algorithm. Yeah, imagine if you start an algorithm from day one, then it really needs 2 3 years to learn on heavy data to make it relevant. Because how can you explain a tool that a driver in Paris needs to be in the right arrondissement because he doesn't want to bike 30 minutes? Well, for a job as sales director in the Netherlands, it's fine that it's nationwide. So all these kind of yeah, what is the word for it? Small details, they make the difference. So that's the hard part for the performance. But if I would start, then I would start the pay for performance model while having duration clients. So start the conversation with the client, understand what's happening outside of the funnel, and start steer towards that metric. And I am 100% sure if you start to do that exercise, that you will be shocked what your current sources will do in terms of efficiency compared to when you were steering on visibility, so job views or impressions. That will be the first game changer.
Yeah, and especially working with the clients that you have and the data that you have to initiate trial and trial, like to test and trial it. So that makes a lot of sense. And so the next question that I have for you is that you mentioned you mentioned I was also doing some research, is that you mentioned you have an extended network of partners where some of the ads get promoted on. And I was wondering, what are these extended partner networks to
Yeah,
boost exposure?
it's a great question because this morning we did a recap with the European Pay for Performance team, and we explicitly talked about this subject. But I think in baseline we shouldn't make it too difficult because we are not using our extended network um, to promote jobs. So how we get traffic is by branded traffic, people thinking about Monster, SEO, SEA traffic. We have display traffic targeting our audience. We have search traffic, buying traffic for our website. So all these kind of standard factors, which everyone has, but differs per platform, I would say. So the beauty is that because we attract traffic for our platform, this is where the magic happens, so to say. So if you compare it to a programmatic or a multi-poster, then you're really talking about I am using these sources as part of my network to engage and to spend the budget, so to say. When working with Monster, you are really talking about the audience of the platform, so of the ecosystem. This means people who signed up and left their CV for us to help them find a job. When they left their email because they want to be updated on jobs, it's because people are seeking for a job and not want to go to a specific company, but want to see an overview of all jobs. And that is what we are doing. We are attracting that traffic and
Hmm.
optimizing that campaign by campaign. So in short, we are using every source everyone is using, but the big difference is we have a platform in between, helping us data, steering us, and buying it in the right direction, but always to provide added value to the platform, to the candidate, and to the client.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And you mentioned that you're using display. So does that mean you also bring in traffic from social media campaigns as well?
Yeah, but what we're not doing specifically is using branded campaigns on company level or these kind of things. We are really using social media to attract candidates from I would say the awareness and the consideration phase of the funnel. We're really trying to engage with them to go to our platform. So that's really what we do.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. And I think that makes sense. Of course, the branded awareness, those should be on social media channels as a starting touch point, because that, of course, brings so much more traffic to your website. And when you have the right messaging, then and you also step into the shoes of the candidate, that's you activate them, right? So they're
Yeah.
no longer passive anymore. So I mean, there are a ton of touch points there on how to get them on your job board, but Monster is huge, so a lot of people, a lot of active and passive candidates know about Monster, so that's a great luxury to have.
Yeah, that is. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're almost wrapping up things, and so we talked about some easy steps. But if there is one thing the audience could put into practice tomorrow, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is understand your data and start working on a performance model that aligns with your key metrics. So I think that's in baseline the best starting point you should do tomorrow. And whether that's job views, that's applied finishes, that's click outs, you really need to look at what you have, what you can do, what you understand, and where this model can add value to your metric. Um, yeah, then I would say next step would be to transition as soon as possible to have in scope what your entire funnel is, and to be sure to partner with job boards and other partners who are really transparent, helping adding value to your company, and not only a platform where you can post your jobs.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I have one fun last question
Okay.
that just came up in my head. What important truth do very few people agree with you on?
So can you repeat that?
Yeah, of course. It sounds really tricky, but so what is a truth of yours that very few people agree with you on when it comes to the pay for performance model?
What is a truth that very few people agree with me on? that that it's a very profitable business, I would say.
Yeah, and this goes on to the next point, I guess, because now I'm just curious. Is for those out there that might be having some trouble getting buy-in from their company, what are some great tips that you could give them to get buy-in from their companies to actually implement this? Because the pay for performance model is a long game, right? It doesn't you
Mhm.
can't you, it doesn't take a couple days to set up. It's something that takes a lot of time. So how can you convince your managers and your company to initiate this?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think I did an hour at an agency for a talk about this subject, but let me give you the short version. So one interesting part was when I worked for the direct employer, which was the previous example as well. We used to spend around 5K per month on recruitment marketing. But I was also responsible for staffing, for outsourcing. So what it means is that when we wanted to do our business, we basically had three options. Either we outsource our business, extremely expensive, let's say 300 euros per day per person. We put
Wow.
a staffer there. It would be expensive, 150 euro per day per person, or we would have a direct hire, which was 56 euro per hour, and the people working there would know this metric by head by now. So the end of this story is we saved 6 million euros in a year by increasing our recruitment marketing spend to 90K per month. So we went from like somewhere below 10 to that amount. And why? Because we really compared every way of working with each other. So if you know the numbers I just gave you, like the 300 per day, 150 per day, and the 56 per day, then imagine what price per applicant you are able to pay when you're looking into performance. And if you know that you need 10 applicants for a hire, we hired 22% of the people coming in our company in the end. It means that you need approximately 4 to 5 applicants per hire. And if you see the difference per day, what the costs are, then eventually I had conversations with Monster, where I was a client from, like I would be able to pay 300 euros per apply, which is fine for me. But can you deliver more volume then? And then it becomes really interesting because when you're really on top of the pay for performance model, you are really in control of the result, and you can also really make visible what effectiveness you have on the entire company. And I think
Mhm.
once
Right.
you have this set up, it was I didn't even have to call the CFO to get more budget. It was open.
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes to show how much money you saved by doing this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that's the case that people can show when they're trying to convince their company to adapt to this model. So yeah, thank you for sharing. So we are actually at the end of our webinar session. Martijn, I just want to give you a huge thank you for joining us today. That was a very juicy webinar session. I learned so much. And also, thanks to our audience for joining us. We could not do this without you. And yeah, just so happy that everyone is here. If you have any questions or if we didn't get to answering any of your questions, feel free to drop myself or Martijn a message on LinkedIn. You can find us in the speaker section of the event. We will also be sharing the recording of this on the Wonderkin LinkedIn page. So thank you so much for everyone for joining us. It was a really great session. And yeah, we'll see you next time. We have our next session next month. So bye, everyone. Have a
Thank you
great
so much.
day or evening.